Hey guys, Brandflakes here. I know it's been a while since my last video, but that's because I've kind of fallen a little bit out of love with Eternal Return as of late. I mean that, and also my neighbor still has her AC rattling 24/7, so again, this will be a video with a bit poorer audio quality, and I'm really sorry about that. The fan is running just so I can drown out the whirring in the background. But just to explain my absence, I've been playing Eternal Return as my main game since, I believe, April of 2021, so I guess I've been gone for around a month now. So from April until July this year, I've been playing Herbs for my main game for around 15 months, which is an understandably very long time. And so aside from some breaks here and there, which were kind of forced due to holidays, this month break from making content has about been the longest that I've not taken the game seriously. And if I'm being honest, it's been pretty therapeutic for me, because my stream, I mean, if you guys didn't know, I do stream on Twitch, and I stream the game pretty often during most of Season 6, and people were starting to say about how much I complained. And complaining, if I'm being honest, is something that's kind of just natural to me with this game. I love to complain. Like, if it's something that's based on RNG and luck, I complain. If it's something about, you know, unfortunate circumstances like third parties, I complain. I complain about everything, but usually when I complain, I can shake it off, and then I can move on to the next thing, and then I can have a joke about it. But what I was realizing what was happening with Herbs and during the entirety of Season 6 was that I would complain, and then there would be no punchline. I would just, and that was it. Like, I would say something was really upsetting to me, and then I would find no silver lining with it. And I guess my mental just couldn't handle it anymore. And if I'm being honest, doing YouTube, like, you guys have been great. The YouTube community has been an absolute joy to me. Like, you guys, everyone who leaves comments on my videos, I appreciate every comment. Like, seeing the likes and all the engagement come in has really made me enjoy the entire content creation part of YouTube. And I do think that if I hadn't played Eternal Return for 15 months before, or I guess 13 months before I started YouTube, I probably wouldn't have burnt out, because YouTube by itself was making me really enjoy the game. Or at least the content creation wise. The game itself, you know, like I said earlier, I'm not really feeling, but making content for Eternal Return on YouTube has been an absolute joy. But the camel that broke the straw's back, if I'm being honest, was really the last few patches of Season 6. Now, obviously, I've been gone for around a month, so by the time I've come back, it's been around two major patches, maybe 3 major patches since I've really stopped playing. And obviously, at the end of a season, you know, developers won't really want to adjust the game too much, which is totally fine, right? Like, it makes sense that if the season's about to end, you wouldn't make gigantic balance changes because you don't want to affect the meta that much. And for the most part, Nimble Neuron is, well, I won't say pristine with that, because they definitely have nerfed some things significantly right before patches, and they have actually done that as well. I honestly, the last major patch, like the one before this pre-season 7 coming up, was the only patch that I didn't bother reviewing myself. I skimmed it, and that was it. I skimmed it once, and I have never done that. Like, since April 2011 or 2021, I have never, like, however many patches that is, right? Because they used to patch weekly until I think Season 2, and they started patching bi-weekly. So that's how we're talking, like 40 patches. I read 40 patches and reviewed them and tried to make sense of them and tried to understand what was going on with each patch. And then this last one was the only one that I didn't bother reading. And I honestly cannot even tell you if they made a major balance change. And I'm pretty sure they did. They released Cube Watch, and they nerfed a few characters, but they also ended up buffing a few. Anyways, all that aside, if you guys never watched my streams, if you guys, and I don't think I actually complain about balance ever on YouTube, so it's probably unknown to everyone on YouTube, but I complained a lot about crit. And even in this game, I'll be abusing crit. So crit as a stat was kind of had a soft rework when we got into Season 7, or into Season 6. So if you guys didn't know, the big kind of marketing factor of Season 6 was the fact that Nimble Neuron was going to remove 2 stats from the game, and that is going to be extra basic attack damage and extra skill damage. And I'm gonna be really sorry, I'm trying to make this video as fast as possible, so while I would usually edit those stats on the screen for you guys to see, I won't bother this time. I promise in Season 7, I'll be making like normal videos again once I start trying them out. This weekend I will be busy with a few IRLs, so I won't have those videos out immediately, but you will be seeing higher quality content from me after this one, I swear. But so these two stats, I think they still are on some legacy items. I think they're on, I think extra basic attack damage is still on Petal Torrent and the ICG from Nathapon. Maybe I'll put those on screen. But anyways, so these stat lines, they essentially pierce your defense. So let's say that you had an item that did 10 extra basic attack damage. That means every single basic attack you did would deal 10 damage no matter what. And if you had a basic attack that applied multiple times, like AR for example, it would apply to every single shot. So as an example, AR, 10 basic attack damage, you would deal 30 damage per auto. And people didn't like that because you would get so much ridiculous damage output from just autoing, and you could do nothing to reduce it except have these very niche items like Active Camo back then and Sheath of Shah Jaha back then. And so after a lot of, I guess, deliberation, after people complained for, I think, 4 or 5 seasons, like since they reworked it going to season 2, yeah, they reworked extra basic attack damage and extra skill damage going to season 2, and since season 2 to season 6, people complained the entire way. So it took them nearly a year to rework it, which is fine. It's a pretty major damage system to update. But so what they did was that they made crit better because all of these sources of extra basic attack damage, they ended up having either additional AP added to it, like extra attack power added to it, or they had basic auto attack amplification, there we go, added to the stat, or just more crit for certain items. And what that ended up doing was that fed into the exact issue that they were supposed to fix with the removal of extra basic attack damage. So instead of damage being unreducible by defense, your damage is now so high when you auto attack that it doesn't really matter how much defense you have for the most part. And the reason why I say for the most part is because auto arms, it does have crit damage reduction, and I think it's actually the only item left in the game that has crit damage reduction. So earlier I mentioned Active Camo and Sheath of Shah Jaha having basic attack damage reduction. Auto arms is basically the only thing left that directly reduces basic attack damage, and it's ridiculous. Like the amount of damage you'll see later on, like I will kill people in like 5 auto attacks, including my passive autos, and my passive autos deal like 70% of my normal auto attack damage. Like let's see right here, this Aya that we're watching, where I'm actually gonna mess up this fight really poorly, right? But you're gonna see that I auto attack her maybe 3 times, and watch her HP bar right here. Like I autoed her 3 times and I brought her down to 45%. And yeah, one of those autos was a reduced damage percentage auto. So I autoed her essentially 2.5 times and she nearly died. If I autoed her 5 times, she dies. Like how ridiculous is my basic attack damage, to the point where I didn't even use spells on her properly and she nearly went down. And this Isol coming up will be an even better example of that. I think I'll actually land a few things on this Isol, like my Qs, but it'll probably be a few seconds. I'll talk about it when it gets up there. But so back to where I was going before my entire tangent about EBAT and ESD, I've been complaining about this entire season. A lot of people have been complaining about this entire season that crit should be nerfed. They upgraded crit to 170%, I believe, with season 6, and then they reduced Creed of the Night by 5%, obviously, to compensate. But if you had radar, or if you just had random crit on your build, you'll do way more damage. But they compensated a lot of other things to allow you to deal more crit damage as well. So let's see right here. This Isol walks up, I don't crit, I crit once, and then yeah, see, I crit him maybe 3 times, he died in 6 autos. How crazy is that damage? I have my ultimate, I'm pretty sure my weapon skill is up. I might have used my E, and my E does have a few points in it, so I hit basically 2 abilities and he died. To me, that's not okay, because for me, the real skill expression when it comes to auto attacks is proper auto spacing, but that fight I just ran into him. And then to me, my spells should be my skill expression as a kind of auto attack because Xylin is about as close as you're going to get to a battle mage in regard to where she weaves in autos and spells to deal like very close, like very equivalent damage to take someone down. But when crit is too strong, all she has to do is auto attack you, and her ultimate almost even becomes optional because you just hit people and they die. And so going back to the entire crit issue, they overbuffed a lot of characters for crit. Like Heart, if you guys remember at the start of season 6, would delete you in 3 auto attacks as a ranged character. Very cool. Rio had to be nerfed. AR Isol is right now a terror. AR Aya wasn't as good, but honestly, AR Isol is so strong that AR in general is obviously pretty good. Like crit Crossbow Nadine is now coming back as a popular crit user, and she was broken as all sin at the start of the season, right? So, and even Throsacella had a brief moment where it was really strong. It just kind of fell off for some reason. But you can see that so many characters that have been popularly meta this entire season have all abused crit. And instead of nerfing crit down just even a tiny bit, what Number Neuron decided to do was they decided to just nerf a character, like a crit character, and then buff another crit character. So the problem didn't go away. You still just had a ranged auto attacker abusing the same stat, right clicking you and killing you in like 4 or 5 autos. And then the cycle has just continued on and on and on. And I guess, yeah, and then right now we have Air Isol. Like, it hasn't even changed. Like, Air Isol, if you guys have seen tournaments, you guys have seen streams or gameplay, you will know that Air Isol is also a character where if you misposition, he will stand still in melee and match your DPS or outdamage you, but his damage is actually higher because Isol's base stats are terrible. So that means his DPS is actually like 60% higher than yours if you're in melee in order for him to kill you faster than you kill him, which again is insane. And they just refuse to tone that down. And yeah, obviously I mentioned that I stopped playing in the last 3 patches, and the last 3 patches, they probably didn't want to nerf anything, but the thing is that people were complaining the entire season. They didn't just complain for the last 3 patches, the last 4 patches, the last 5 patches. They complained the entirety of season 6. And all you need to do, as far as I'm aware, as a developer, all they need to do is they just need to click on the part of the data, or just like Control F the part of the data that like has the crit damage formula, and just change it to 170 again, or like 165. It just didn't make sense to me that so many people complained about this singular stat weight, and they never bothered to change it, even though it would be much simpler than changing all the characters that they did nerf around it. And I don't know if that's just me being ignorant as a non-developer, but it genuinely feels like that they went out of the way. They nerfed Crystal Tiara, they nerfed Diadem, they nerfed like, what else did they nerf? They nerfed Crusader's armor, which is really popular in crit builds. They preemptively nerfed Creed. They nerfed basic attack damage scaling on all the characters that use weapons that scale with that. Like, they nerfed so many things around crit instead of crit itself, and it just didn't make sense. And I'm concerned that Season 7 will have this exact same issue. Season 7, obviously, we have this new shiny toy to play with called Affinity, which is replacing skill ampersand, which I'm personally excited about because it should make balancing much easier, because now instead of having to deal with like these magical stats that fluctuate randomly, excuse me, I think I just burped there. Instead of having to deal with like characters like Magnus or Hyunwoo, who have these insane spell-based damages, they can now let those characters have strong base damages, but then very poor affinity scaling, because they no longer have to worry that making a character with like 500 base damage on an ability is just going to do 2000 damage late game because they have 200% spell amp, right? So it's a really good change, but I am concerned that they're going to mess with some ratios and it's not going to work out, and instead of fixing like some certain interaction, they're going to do everything they can to work around it for no reason. And I think until I see proof that Nimble Neuron is being more open, you could say, with doing more systematic changes, I'll probably be making like more not funny content videos, but just like more like educational videos. Not even educational. I don't even know what I want to make for a return, honestly. I'll probably be covering all the Season 7 changes and then seeing where I go from there. But what my point was going to be was that it's hard. I love being an innovator. I love being creative. I love doing random things and doing wacky stuff, like the healing tank Adina stuff that you might have seen earlier. And then in the past there was an Alex build that I made that stacked movement speed and just cued people, like Adriana Fireball before it got really popular. Like there's so many things I love exploring about this game. And actually, yeah, there's something I forgot to bring up. The reason why I hate crit being strong even more is because it's impossible to be creative in a game environment where someone can stand still, auto attack me, and I cannot deal with them whatsoever. Because, like, let's be honest, if you're dealing with like a solid brick wall that will take you down, let's just use the example, right? A training dummy that you have to kill in 5 seconds or else you lose the challenge, right? That is exactly what crit characters are, which means that if your character does not do that necessarily like 2,000 damage to take down that training dummy, you just can't play the game. And that does mean the game is quote-unquote balanced, because there are plenty of characters like Dial-In that can kill in that 5-second mark very easily. But if you're trying to play builds that are slower, that don't have the base damage output, or even anything else to like survive those 5 seconds, like where is the fun? Like not everyone wants to play characters and builds that just kill things in less than 5 seconds. Not everyone wants to be shoehorned into making straight up assassin builds for every single character they play. And that's exactly what's happening with the quote-unquote creativity for Eternal Return. Everything has to be an assassin. Everything has to be absurdly tanky or solitaire or extremely one-dimensional or very uninteractive, because the baseline of the game right now is crit, and crit is uninteractive. Crit isn't fun to play against in its current iteration. Crit is something that just kind of forces you to conceptually have something that can deal with it. Like you just saw there, 294 crit damage auto. I have 253 AP. That's crazy. That means that guy only had 100 armor, but Alex has way more than 100 armor. Anyways, the game's ending soon, so I'll finish up my thoughts. Yeah, I will be coming back. If you guys got this far, thank you for watching. I will be returning back to Eternal Return content for Season 7 after this weekend, and I'll try and be in a better mental mood, but this is just my explanation for why I've been gone for so long. And yes, it is literally just crit and Sua and a few other things, but that can be covered in a different video. I hope you have a good night, and I hope you enjoyed the rant. Bye-bye.